Okay, our fifth presentation today is from Arianna Cohen and Roxanna Ast from the New Jersey Department of Children and Families, as well as Julia Fitzgerald and Chimdindu Okafor, Youth Advisory Board members of the New Jersey Justice Collaborative for Girls.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Arianna Cohen. I'm New Jersey's RPE program specialist. I'm joined with a few co-hosts, co-presenters today. So I have Roxanna Ast, who's our NJRPE program evaluator, along with two youth advisory board members, Julia Fitzgerald and Chimdindu Okafor, who you will hear a lot about a little later on in our presentation. So today we're just going to talk about and take you along this journey with us through girls' leadership and a pathway to health equity. As we take this journey together, I want you to remember two things about New Jersey. If this is the only takeaway that you take from this presentation. So one, New Jersey is full of potholes, which means that we overcome and have a lot of challenges. And then two, to always just remember that New Jersey is a garden state. So we have these beautiful things that really are our strengths. And as we go throughout this presentation, we're going to make three pit stops. So first, it'll be what we know. So just looking at some of the studies surrounding girls' leadership, along with how it relates to sexual violence prevention. Our second pit stop will be what we learned. So through our community conversations throughout New Jersey, with girls specifically, and also youth serving professionals. And then last pit stop is what I'm most excited about, is what we activated. So all of our activities surrounding girls' leadership, and that'll be the portion where you will hear from both of our YAP members. So I'm going to pass this slide to Roxanna to talk about what we know.
Hi, everyone. I am just going to very briefly share some findings that we have from studies on girls' leadership. And this was mentioned and discussed in depth in previous presentations. But as we know, economic inequality is a known risk factor for sexual violence victimization. We also know that gender inequality in education, employment, and income results in an increased risk for sexual violence. When we also look at policies and programs that improve economic security and stability for young women and girls, we also see that there's a lower risk for sexual violence victimization through strengthening their educational, employment, and income opportunities. And here in New Jersey, when we talk about girls' leadership, we kind of refer back to this research and data to inform our work. And we look forward to continuing this conversation in our breakout room.
Okay, so I'll be talking about what we learned. This is our community conversations that we have throughout New Jersey. Traditionally, folks will call them focus groups, but we wanted to make sure that the community didn't feel like we were going in there and experimenting on them. And that was their exact words. So we used the words community conversations. And this was really in non-traditional settings. So it wasn't going to happen in like your local library or anything like that. We really had to meet the girls where they were, along with also meeting the youth serving professionals as well too. So these are just three key points that came out of those conversations, but they said a lot. But these were just some themes that kept coming up as we had multiple community conversations throughout New Jersey, because North Jersey is very different from Central Jersey and South Jersey. So New Jersey girls want to be listened to and heard. They want to be treated with respect for their ideas, experiences, and power, while being guided by adults they can trust. So they didn't want adults to tell them. They wanted their voices really to be valued, especially for their experiences and their knowledge that they come with. Second, the landscape of girls' services is significantly limited, and there are many reasons that have affected expansion. So things like transportation, funding, volunteer needs, and time. Transportation is a big thing, especially for our South Jersey girls. And you'll hear a little bit about that once we get into the conversations with our YAP members. The third point was girls stated that a need for diversity of experiences, creation of girls-only spaces are important barriers that must be addressed. So even though there are some opportunities for girls' leadership, a lot of the girls didn't see any diversity within those programs and those opportunities, or they just weren't girl-only spaces. They were for all people, and they really needed that safe space for themselves. Okay, so what did we activate? There was a few things, well, a lot of things that we activated for the girls leadership portion. So we had to foster new partnerships. This was an initiative that was new for New Jersey, specifically for sexual violence prevention. This isn't the way that we usually do prevention. Usually it was just curriculum, that's all we knew. So we needed to make sure that we have some experts in order to carry out this initiative. So some of our partners were national TA providers. So we partnered with Girls Inc., also Justice and Joy, formerly known as National Crittenton, and also Rutgers University Center for Women in Work. We also provided, through the initiative, we provided funding to grassroots girl serving organizations in New Jersey. And the way we had to find these grassroots girl serving organizations, I'm going to say, was very non-traditional. So things like going on social media to find them, because we know that they don't always have a seat at the table, but we know that they need to be supported. We also supported girl-led community action plans, which focus on community level, either risk or protective factors, providing funding to New Jersey regional collaboratives, established a multi-level collaborative to sustain the work, engage youth serving professionals through a community of practice. And then the big part is youth engagement. How can we really do girls leadership in New Jersey if there aren't any youth involved? So you will be hearing from them next. So through our collaboration with Justice and Joy, formerly known as National Crittenton, they decided to create New Jersey Justice Collaborative for Girls and started a youth advisory board. So we have two of those members here today. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. We'll start off with Julia first, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Fitzgerald from South New Jersey, looking to go to college in the fall. I am very into social work and the work that I do, and activism work and all that. So I'm just really glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. And then Chimdindu, can you introduce yourself as well too?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm so sorry also if you can hear my fan in the back, it's like really loud. But my name is Chimdindu Okafor. I'm a sophomore health management major at Howard University. And I'm from Newark, New Jersey, which is in the northern part of New Jersey. And similar to Julia, like a lot of the work, a lot of like my formative years have been surrounded by activism. So like I've done work with like Saving National Youth Project, National Agenda for Black Girls, just to name a few. But I definitely love social justice, and I really feel like it's definitely informing everything, even the career I'll get into when I graduate college. So yeah.
So thank you. So we don't just want to leave the audience with just introduction of the YAP members. We want to dive a little bit deeper about their experience as a YAP member. So we'll be asking them just a few questions. We're going to start with Julia. What are some barriers girls face accessing leadership opportunities in New Jersey?
Okay, so when coming across this question, I found like 3 points that stuck out the most to me. And when it comes to accessing leadership for girls in New Jersey, I thought of exposure to opportunities, self-conscious, and race and representation. So going back to race and representation, I think a lot of times when you look at leadership for Black and brown girls, you don't really see, or at least speaking for myself, I didn't see a lot of representation and what that looks like, freshly coming out of high school, even being in school. So being able to have that representation or the diversity that we talk about in these inclusive spaces for one another, whether that be girl only, Black and brown, et cetera, I just wasn't able to find that. So I see that, and I also seen that pattern a lot, not just in the South, but across New Jersey as a whole. Exposure to opportunities as well, being able to have access to those leadership skills and opportunities and the things that you need to become a leader or to engage in leadership opportunities. I felt also that I didn't see a lot of that. And transportation as well, I know Arianna touched on earlier, funding, things like that, it kind of brings down it. And it also stems into self-consciousness and being able to think that you're able to hold these kind of spaces and the things and the changes that you want to see in your community. So those were a couple of the barriers that I was finding.
Thank you, Julia. It really, what I was hearing is that it really leaves out a specific community to this protective factor of girls' leadership. So overall, that's what I heard. Thank you. I'm going to toss this next question to Chimdindu. How do you see your work as a YAB member impacting girls in New Jersey?
I would say that the work as a YAB member, it's like very integral, like propelling for grassroots organizations. Like I think that like with YAB, like we're definitely, I would say we're like a liaison for like, you know, organizations and their youth and the Black and brown girls and gender expansive youth that they're serving. And also like I guess like people who work in like institutions like federal or like local government or like, you know, stuff like that. But not only that, like with YAB, which we'll get later into, we were able to like provide grants for a lot of, well, 3 organizations within the state based off of their areas. And we were able to really see how the money that we were giving them were really impacting the girls. Like one of the grant awardees, Timbuktu Academy, they like do a lot of restorative work, a lot of like wellness, holistic wellness, and just a lot of like leadership preparations in which a lot of the things that they're doing for the girls in their community is paid, which is a big like part of like, I guess the work that we do is just making sure that young leaders are being like compensated for a lot of the labor that they're taking on, especially, you know, because like when we often think of social justice, a lot of times we think like it's like we're giving in ourselves, like it's kind of like a volunteer service, but still, even though it is like, you know, something that we are passionate about, it's something also to remember that a lot of like historical like injustices like make it hard for girls in urban communities to really develop their leadership skills. But I've been being on YAB has allowed me to really like fortify those leadership skills, but also making sure that the money that is coming through is also being dispersed back into that community to develop like the next generation of change makers in New Jersey and then in the greater, you know, country and then globally. So yeah.
Thank you, Chim. You really almost just bridged that gap where Julia identified, you know, what were the barriers, and then you basically told us as a YAB member, you have the power or some power at this time to really make that change. And you really do, because at the end of the day, when it comes to that funding, it was the youth who decided what New Jersey collaboratives were going to get awarded. It had nothing to do with adults at all. I just want the audience to know that they went through proposals and budgets, and they said, these are the folks that we want, and these are the folks that we don't want to fund. And it was really based on several things, and we will talk more about that in our breakout group as well, too. I don't want to take up too much time. The last question, I'm going to give it to both Julia and Chim, but Julia first, how has becoming a YAB member impacted you specifically?
Being a YAB member impacted me in so many ways, but to keep them brief, I think that it taught me a lot about consistency. It taught me a lot about transparency. And what me and Chim spoke on previously is, like Arianna said, is the work that we did it ourselves. So me personally, being 19 and 18 at the time, looking at these proposals, looking at these grants, understanding and working with people that are my same age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, but getting that understanding of what we were doing. And in the moment, the work did not seem as big as it was for when we actually looked at the work that we did. So seeing how it impacted Timbuktu and the other grants and seeing how they're using what we did to better help their community, that was a eye opener for me. And being able to have the girls that I work with, they're very supportive. They listen. It's an amazing board to be a part of. So I think using that into my real life, I was able to identify the parts of myself that I was holding back when it came to leadership or when it came to helping the community out. And I was able to break those curses and break them down and try to figure out what it is exactly is hindering me from providing the opportunities or helping get the opportunities that I need. And I want to use what Chim said earlier about social justice. It's like giving a part of yourself, but also gaining a part of yourself back in a new perspective. So it's like being able to ingest and learn what you've taken and use that to help other people. So helping Timbuktu
right now. Okay.
It helped me look back, and even though we helped Timbuktu, they helped us as well. We impacted them, they impacted us as well. So impacting them impacted myself. And I think giving back and being able to use those skills that we've put out there and it help our own community and our own life and our own self is just very revitalizing.
I love that. Giving back is like giving to yourself. I'm going to quote that one day. So I'm going to also turn this question back to Chim. How has becoming a YAP member impacted you?
That was really beautiful, Julia, and especially the point of like the perspective. I definitely wanted to touch on how like in YAB and even just like any space where I find myself with people who look like me or have like gone through similar like, you know, social like economic things as I have. I've always like learned new things from them, and like I'm a big learner and I love to like hear other people's experiences, hear how sometimes like you'll find that living in the same city as somebody else, you can have two complete different like life experiences, like, and so just the fact that we're all from New Jersey and we all like, even though we're all like in marginalized groups, like we all have experienced our own things that have informed the way that like we're able to like, I guess, engage in the space that we are in, especially when it comes to like Julia was saying, like the tangible work that we're doing with the awarding the grants or evaluations or planning like programs or anything. It's just really beautiful. And I really love the community that has always like come forth from YAB, and like every time that we are in each other's space, whether it's virtual or in person, it's that energy that is never lost. And that's something that is so like niche and like beautiful and like particular to like social justice spaces. So yeah, I really do love YAB and like everything and everyone a part of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So after hearing from both YAP members, myself and Roxanna, the big question is, so how does New Jersey Girls Leadership efforts connect to the broader concept of health equity? Well, one, we talked about what we learned and also what we know. So we know the risk and protective factors for sexual violence is girls leadership. But when we put a health equity lens onto it, it really focuses on why are there certain communities that are affected more than others. So hearing from Julia and Chim, they touched on some of those barriers and ways that it impacted them just when they had the opportunity for girls leadership that wasn't awarded to them for people who look like them. And then also them being allowed to actually hold power and have power of how they can change their communities. So one, by focusing on girls leadership, we disrupt the cycle of gender inequity. Two, enhancing skills and knowledge of girls in New Jersey alongside compensating their role as YAB, Youth Advisory Board members, is an initial step towards addressing the social determinants of health in areas of poverty, education, and employment. So Chim and Julia, they don't just volunteer their time to be YAB members. It is really important to compensate them because they come with lived experiences, even though they are gaining knowledge and skills along the way. Third, efforts supporting girls' leadership create a ripple effect in addressing risk factors associated with sexual violence and addressing root causes of health inequities. So for example, economic inequity. So intentionally supporting the needs of girls and under-resourced communities, which is what's being done through the awardees for the New Jersey Collaborative. And when we use the word under-resourced communities in New Jersey, that term is really data-driven. When I say data-driven, we actually use data to back those words up for the communities that we serve. So through New Jersey's Community of Affairs, they collected data on all of the municipalities in New Jersey and ranked them based upon who was the most distressed. And they had several different indicators. So we really start at the top of the list of the most distressed to the bottom of the list. And that's how we choose which communities really need it the most and which communities need to be focused on. So when we use the word under-resourced communities, they really are under-resourced communities backed by data. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation, but we do invite you to continue the conversation. So whether you want to do a Q&A with the YAB members, which we encourage everyone to do, or you just want to learn a little bit more about evaluation, our statewide girl leadership efforts, or our partnerships and collaborations, you are definitely invited to chat with us in our breakout group, but thank you.